A mid-spring update. Well, Daniel has become available again, including what we call his marbles, the interpreting of dreams, the showing of dark sentences, and the dissolving of doubts. And this requires a retraction on my part. I put up a video, I believe, mid-January, about 3 months ago, saying that civil war comes to the United States this spring. I'm wrong. I got the interpretation of the dream totally wrong. And this is why knowing is so important with respect to spiritual things. So here's the interpretation of the dream. I told most of it. Your dream is about the heavenly city and the power. You saw power as guns. You saw white folks coming into power. God's people are being given power. The Father is going to harvest the good workers, not the layabouts. He had said, because I didn't write down everything, but he said, these persons say, well, we're just going to sit on clouds and play harps. Those are not the people that are going to make it. If you believe that, if you practice that, you're not going to make it into the kingdom. Because the parables talk about work. Not the layabouts. It's about the harvest, only those that are his. Proverbs, look at the ants. They know how to work. The whole reality of the city, you are not allowed in. The city I saw, Chet saw the heavenly city again. There's not a city here on earth. I was looking at the heavenly city again. Probably one of many of them, but because there's a lot of them. But we'll get to that. And the road that I walked up towards the heavenly city, that is the way that leads to everlasting life, the way to go. That's what you see. It's not about anything that's going to be happening here on earth. It's about those white folk. They aren't even white folk. You're seeing. It's about spiritual, not warfare. It's basically keeping out the crap. And I'm going to have to ask him about this. Well, what would be the crap that are trying to get into the heavenly city? It's touched on a little bit in the book of Revelation. I think it's the Nephilim Rapha, amongst other sinners, because they have technology to reach the heavenly cities and Shaddai's abode, which isn't far away from here, but we'll get to that. No fighting. Let's see here. Spiritual reality. Angels are all in place. The laws are in place. The scriptures are in place. Stuff is done. They are just firing their guns. No fighting. It's in place. Prophets said things. Everything is all set. It's all established, ready for a moment in time. A harvest to come, which Carolyn Dennis talks about, declaring your destiny. I think you're looking for something, but there's not much to see. What's going on? What's to see? There's something, but nothing's happening. That's true. Everybody, these angels were all just standing around. They are there. Masks like skulls. There's nothing to say, nothing to do. Your presence was just a shadow. When I walked up behind the one guy looking down off the overpass, and he turned around and looked at me and had like a COVID mask with like a skull teeth on it. Your presence is just a shadow. The light, because this is the glory of the Father. And here's Chet. This is the exact quote. How dare you darken my presence with your shadow? What is your presence going to change? Nothing. Not there. The judgment has gone forth. The destruction is coming. Satan is allowed to go forth to deceive the nations. So the death realities of Elam and Abaddon, Apollyon, Apollo, come to my way of thinking. Yeah, woke and woke ideology. These are the pure doctrines of Satan. Nothing is happening. No siege, no super weapons. It's time for time to pass. The executioner shoots. The bullet is traveling. It takes years. So stop what you are doing. Question mark? Stop what you're doing. Bullet is traveling, because this is the ones coming from Delta Capricorni that's going to arrive 15 to 18 years from now. Oppose Satan? Certainly not. Not in the slightest. The Christians put rainbow flags around their crosses. They've accepted the death realities of Olam. Anyway. Now, I wrote up a list, a cheat sheet of things to cover. I went public in an email February 19th or so about the financial markets dying. I haven't told this to Daniel yet. In this dream, I'm in a, I don't know, house or a business someplace. It wasn't really any furniture. There were rooms. And I see this guy, he's turning on a shower, but he says he wants it to be quiet. And then I walk from there to another place, and here's a guy laying on a bed, and there's a spigot in the ceiling, and there's water coming down onto the bed. And I'm thinking, this is my guess, I could get in huge trouble here. Just talking about financial liquidity and just being comfortable. Then I walked into yet another room. The rooms are all, they didn't have doors. They were big, huge, wide openings like multi-room houses, mansions. And this woman hands me a placard, and it's got a financial chart on it that I recognize very clearly with dojis, what are known as dojis, open, high, low, closed dojis. But the interesting thing was that it was divided into 3 segments. Yeah, it was divided into 3 segments. The first segment was maybe 1 to 2 weeks. The second segment was 3 or 4 weeks. And the third segment was, I couldn't even say it was a week. And, but in the way I published it, it was like 1 week, 4 weeks, 1 week, whatever. 1 week, but I'd said financial markets die in 5 weeks, and it's been 6 weeks now. It hasn't quite happened yet, but it will happen with the day of Yahuah Al Shaddai. And plus the time frames were not clearly elucidated on this chart. They were kind of generalized, but it was approximately 1 to 2 weeks, then approximately 4 to 5 weeks, and then a very short amount of time. And the larger section wasn't dojis. It was like Roman candlesticks, but the Roman candlesticks were not like Roman candlesticks that people such as myself and others who know how to read charts, because I studied technical analysis a lot. Candlesticks are just another type of way charting of markets is expressed, and it's normally red and green. And it's only one candlestick. And in this chart, I saw 3 sets of candlesticks, what I perceived as candlesticks. I don't know what they were, but they were red and white over each other as a financial indicator. And red and white is, in my mind, a bloody war. Anyway, and then the very last, and that was 3 to 4 weeks. And then the very last part of the chart were regular black, open, high, low, closed dojis. And it wasn't very many of them. And then the last one was just a straight down line that went right off the bottom of the chart and just disappeared. And there was nothing on the chart. And the way the chart was, I could see months on the chart, and there was just nothing. There was just nothing on the chart. The last doji was a straight down line, and it literally went right off the bottom of this placard chart that I was holding. So the day of Yahuah Al Shaddai is going to kill the fiat credit markets and the stock markets and things like that. So that's what I saw on February 19th. Recently, I had another dream, and again, at my risk of not knowing how to interpret it, some of these come from the Olam reality, and I have better understanding of the Olam reality, because that's local to us. It's energy. In this dream, I'm in a room and I'm very enamored with an orange, kind of like a glowing orange apple. I've got this thing in my hand. It's got like black, crispy things on it I don't like, and I'm picking off these little black, crispy pieces off of this glowing orange apple I have. And this woman says to me, she says, this started about 12 years ago, and I'm just all enamored with this apple, and all of a sudden, this about 2 foot or bigger orange spider jumps at me. This huge orange spider scares me. I can't say I wasn't scared. I was scared. I turn around and run, because usually when you know you have the ability to withstand something, you're going to fight it. And I knew I could not withstand this thing. And I ran away from it, and I ran out of this place where it was a building, and I slammed the door, and the door was just a flimsy aluminum screen door, and I just closed the door, and the spider was in there, and I was outside, and I was safe. Well, now, what does this mean? Well, I've been looking at various and sundry, all sorts of electronic things that I like, and recently I was looking at a solar charge controller. An MPPT, maximum power point tracking solar charge controller. A true MPPT solar charge controller, which many of them are fake and they're PWM. This was an inexpensive $35 20 amp with 80 volt. I think an 80 volt maximum VLC. Anyway, this is irrelevant to most of my hearers. They don't care. But, but looking for true MPPT solar trackers, tracking charge controllers for batteries, many of them are fake. And it's trying to find the real ones. And anyway, so I'd found this real one. I was really happy with it. I'm like, I might want to buy that. So then I have this dream about it. Well, it's much larger than just that solar charge controller. In the 2003 sci-fi Battlestar, Ron Moore? I don't remember the guy that pioneered the Battlestar Galactica Reimagined series. There's that. It's a spoiler, but in there are different types of technologies with respect to the TIE fighters. The Battlestar is a space battleship, and it has fighters like airplanes, but they fly in space. And the enemy, the so-called Cylons, had a weapon that was a type of resonant energy. It wasn't a weapon that destroyed the TIE fighter like a bullet or a strong energy discharge. What this one did is it just sent out a resonant pulse of some kind, and it was like an EMP, and it just completely neutralized all of the Battlestar fleet's TIE fighters. They became totally inoperable and just were floating in space. And this dovetails now today with the Chi-Coms. The Chinese, the communist Chinese, all businesses in China are all aggregate under one authority, power, if you will, and that is the Chinese Communist government. There is no private anything in China. There's just one big business machine. And if I'm correct with this dream, the interpretation of the dream is a Trojan horse of technology has been introduced to the United States, which is a type of technology, and there's articles about it, of inverters. There are large numbers of solar inverters that have been installed all throughout the country in the last 4 to 10 years. And these are the string inverters, where there's just 10 or 15 or 50 kilowatt inverters that are direct grid intertie converters. They're not hybrid. They don't have batteries. The sun comes up and the energy comes into them, and they switch on and start generating power into the grid. But they're all internet connected. And I've been seeing articles for years now about software in the power grid, in these inverters that the Chinese have control over, and they can just damage the power grid by shutting these inverters off. And also, there's articles I've seen about, I think the brand was TP-Link, routers, various internet routers that have been sold by the Chinese to America have Trojan horses and things in them also, and between the spyware and the back doors, or just being able to brick the thing and shut it off. So that's overall what I think this dream means, is that the Chinese, the Chicoms, have given us cheap technology, but it's a weapon. And they're just going to push a switch. It's like an EMP, but it doesn't have to be as powerful. And it just neutralizes all these devices, permanently bricks them, or long-term bricks them, but just in one instant they can brick every Chicom device in this country. I bought a cell phone, several cell phones last year, and I wasn't really paying attention to where it came from. I should have. I was off of eBay. And it was a cell phone, brand new, NOS, refurbished cell phone that I bought from China. A good quality name brand cell phone. And as soon as I pulled that thing out of its box and turned it on, a big red mess, a single word of about 8 Chinese characters overlaid. It was a Moto G Power 2021. And as soon as I turned it on, and it comes up with the blue M Motorola logo with the circular kind of wavy waves around it, it had a red Chinese message in Chinese characters overlaid right over the Motorola logo. I said, man, they're not making it any secret that there's Chicom spyware in this phone. And so I have not done anything with that phone. I've not put it on the internet. Literally, it's a phone that until I reset it and erase that Chicom spyware, which I may or may not be able to do, it's a phone I've just been sitting on doing nothing. But I have plenty of other phones, but that's neither here nor there. So that's the meaning of that dream, is that if you're righteous, you should not be dependent upon any Chinese technologies. It's like, if I'm going to buy a solar charge controller, then it might as well be in endearing terms, the expensive blue Euro trash. It's really good stuff. Victron. Get yourself a Victron solar charge controller. They're blue. That's the father's color, Shaddai's color. Anyway, so that's that dream. Now, the next topic, where I'm going with this, is what time is it? In my previous video, I was talking about the day of Yahuah Al Shaddai is imminent. I thought within a week, but I was just kind of guessing. And I'm still guessing. We don't know when the day of Yahuah Al Shaddai will be, but we know it's at the door. It's going to be very soon. And I have since done my Hebrew spiritual Yehudim calendar for this year. And what surprised me is that, and I'd gone public with an email, that Acts chapter 12 tells us that Easter is not the Pesach, is not the Feast of Unleavened Bread. There are 2 different groups of individuals in Acts chapter 12. We have a great evil, the evildoers, in this case Herod, who had seized upon James and, was it Yachanan? 2 of the apostles, slew James with the sword, and what was it? Peter, Kepha, Peter. And because that's what they do when they celebrate their high days, they celebrate with murders. And it said he'd slain James with the sword, and then had also seized upon Kepha, Peter, intending to bring him forth after Easter. And it says, then were the days of unleavened bread. So what this scripture is telling you is that Easter is not righteous. It's wicked. And the commandments that we should be keeping, which is the 3 feasts, 3 times a year, all the males shall appear before me. These are food activities. Well, Feast of Unleavened Bread, potentially. I'll have to take this up with Daniel. Not so much the Pesach, but the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So Easter had not yet taken place, which is what the Satanists were celebrating, but the righteous were celebrated the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They're not the same, but they land very near each other. And so the Christians are out here, anity, in their wickedness. I'm not going to apologize for that. That's the message of the everlasting gospel. Christians are not going to make it. The overwhelming vast majority of Christians are in hell. I have a friend, as the maxim of the scriptures says, with, what's her name? The churl, Nabal, Abigail. She said this maxim, as his name is, so is he. Well, the guy I know, in this case, not Nabal, the churl, the son of Belial. In this case, Joel. He's a prophet. As his name is, so is he. As my name is, Chet. I'm the door to the gods. My name, as my name is, so am I. Chet. I'm the door to all the gods. I'm a seer prophet, a door to the gods. That's the meaning of my name. Anyway, Joel told me about, he went to hell. This is probably 10 years ago. And he said the bars in hell were round. He said they were pillars, 2-3 feet in diameter. And he said the gap between the bars was like 1 inch, 2 inches at most. And he said there were lots and lots of Christians in hell. Yeah. And as I say, there's this internet meme with, what's her name? It's the little Simpsons girl. She gets on this bus, and the bus to nowhere, and the bus driver, it's got this sign, and there's this internet meme, don't make me tap the sign. I'm thinking about making a sign. It says, can't read, don't want to read. And Christians don't read the scriptures. They don't read the Bible. Because it says, Yeshua said, wide is the way that leadeth unto destruction, and broad is the way, and many there are that go thereby. Rabbinical Judaism, Mohammedan Islam, and Constantine Christianity are the wide ways that lead unto destruction. They don't read. Anyway. So getting back to what time is it? This year, unlike Acts chapter 12, where the calendars sometimes line up, this year the spiritual calendar did not line up with the secular satanic calendar. In Easter, Ishtar, the bare-breasted fertility goddess, come down from heaven with her tits out, justice. That's a whole other rant that I can get into. That the masses carry the pictures of the goddesses, the transgender dick girl god, Justice, the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that's a transgender dick girl god. One of the death realities of Olam that the masses worship. And they carry around pictures, their driver's license in their pocket, and they worship Justice. The transgender death reality of Olam. Ishtar with the 7 rays coming out of her head. Anyway, Christians, they worship that God. Well, I don't. I don't have a driver's license, and I don't have a social security number. I'm not a hypocrite like they are. Anyway, so this year, and I don't keep Easter. I keep the Pesach and Feast of Unleavened Bread. So this year, the new moon in March fell, I think, less than 2 days, no more than 2 to 3 days before the spring equinox. And so what that did was it pushed the April new moon way into April. And almost a full month separated Easter from the Pesach, Passover, and unleavened bread this year. They're very separated from each other. And so I did my spring calendar now, And we're past Lamb Day. I think Lamb Day was yesterday. And the 14th day on the Hebrew calendar this year will be April 30th into May. It'll be started April 30th at sundown and go into May 1st. And Bull Pony, a calculator of time, I haven't watched his videos yet. I've acquired them, just haven't digested them yet. But the title of one of his videos says Mayday, Mayday. And I thought, how interesting that I call it a trifecta here in my notes, that the Carolyn Dennis, Shaddai, speaking through Carolyn Dennis, talked about Nisan 1, the first day of the first month. And having done my calendar, the first day of the first month, Shaddai, through Carolyn Dennis, made a point to mention the first day of the first month, not just brought it up, saying, yeah, my Nisan 1. Didn't say really much of anything else. Well, when I did my calendar this year, it was interesting. I call it a trifecta. It's three things lined up this year. The first day of the first month fell on a Sabbath and a new moon together. So it's a trifecta. Probably really, really rare to have the first day of the first month. There's a 1 in 7 chance of that happening, landing on a Sabbath, of course. But then to land on a new moon, there's only like a 1 in 29 or 1 in 30 chance of that happening. But then, what's the chances? Here comes one of the gods. What are the chances, mathematically, statistically, that the first day of the first month would coincide together with a new moon and a Sabbath? So it's 3 of the Genesis. This is how you calculate time. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 and 15. This is one of the very first commandments by Shaddai, the Shaddai cartel, if you will, to us. How to calculate time. No Aviv, barley, wheat, no grain calculations. That can be influenced by man and weather. There's no grain calculations in this. Just the greater and lesser lights of Genesis 1, 14, and 15. No grain. So this year was an interesting trifecta. So now, counting forward 14 days, it lands on, interestingly, potentially a Black Friday, Thursday at sundown. I mean, all these things lining up. So it will be very interesting. Again, just Chet's tinfoil hat. I got a piece of foil I'm going to put on my head. It's laying. Got my tinfoil hat on, guessing at the day of Yahuah Al Shaddai at Jerusalem time, not in the United States, 7 hours ahead of us, starting anytime after sundown on April 30th. 3 days from now, 2 days from now. Anyway. There's a song. Is it by the Daz Band? You dropped the bomb on me, baby. Daniel dropped another bomb on me, and I'm here to drop the bomb on you. 2 of them. Eliyahu, the Tishbite. Why is that word alien there, Tishbite, only used there and not of any of the other aliens in the scriptures? Well, that's because Eliyahu, or Maha Eliyah, not a man born here on earth. It was one of the gods. That's right. Eliyahu, Elijah, the prophet in the scriptures, is not a man born here on earth. It was one of the gods. And I asked Daniel about who he thinks it is. Daniel strongly believes it was the Archangel Michael. And that's why you see he had the power to call down fire from heaven and burn his enemies up, something that typically we don't have. But as one of the gods, no problem. How do we clean up problems here? Well, we made a covenant about water, but we don't have any covenants concerning fire. So let's burn everything up. And, that's where we are now. Everything's getting burned. So this chariot, the gods really like high technology and rockets. They travel by rocket ships. And that's one of the things that Edric von Däniken talks about a lot. The gods are astronauts. They have rocket ships. That's what Eliyahu did. A chariot, a rocket with horses, horsepower. Rockets are, expressed in their amount of energy and power. Horsepower. A rocket with its, a chariot, rocket with its horses, horsepower, came to get the Archangel Michael and take him off the earth. And it went up in a whirlwind, the rocket trail as the rocket took off. So there's more excellent knowing that was not a man, Eliyahu, Elijah, not a man here on earth. It was one of the gods, the Archangel Michael, as best Daniel can determine. He very strongly believes that that's what it is. But now here's the next, the big bomb. That's not the bomb. Here's the bomb. About 15 months ago, I made videos about the Tower of Babel, which was a launch tower for rockets to go to space stations and to the moon 6,000 years ago. The Tower of Babel was a launch tower, the land of the missiles in Levant. Well, that was a bomb that Daniel dropped on me and you all 15 months ago. Well, now here's the next bomb. I already disclosed this. Well, revealed this. Disclosed, that's not necessarily an accurate word. Dis meaning not, no closure. We want closure. I wrote an email and sent it to Declaring Your Destiny and the spiritual insiders there. And in this email, in several topics, I said, those planets aren't planets. That was the subject of the subjects, inner subjects of the email. And then I said, more elucidated, I said, those planets that you like to think are planets, they're not planets. The so-called, so here's the bomb, the so-called gas giants of this solar system, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, are not planets. What are they? They're spaceships. That's right. I'll say it again. The so-called gas giants of this solar system, the planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, in their order, are not planets. They are spaceships. They are the spaceships of the Shaddai cartel gods. Respectively, Shaddai, the Father, Jupiter, is his spaceship. Saturn is Olam's spaceship, the Queen of Heaven. Uranus is El Elyon, the Holy Spirit's spaceship. And Neptune, Poseidon, is Yeshua, Yahuah Al Shadai's spaceship. So it's no surprise that the spaceships that we allegedly think are planets are appropriately named after each one of the gods that it is their respective spaceship. Now, persons in their denial would be like, you're smoking crack. Yes, and I used to say that, and in Pharaoh we would laugh with each other. I smoked some crack, and here's what God has to say. Now, here's some of the proofs that these alleged gas giants are not gas giants. They're spaceships. By the laws of physics, gases do not aggregate. They dissipate. So there's no way, by the laws of physics, that a planet of just gases can exist. Another thing, the red spot on Jupiter. I've always been kind of fascinated by the red spot on Jupiter. And Daniel pointed out to me why. You know, if you've ever seen videos from the Mariner probes and the Voyager probes, you see kind of like time lapse, because it's over a period of days and weeks and even months as the probe is approaching the planet. You see the gases circling the spaceship, and you see these swirls and eddies in the red spot of Jupiter. And I just, in the back of my mind, I said, there's something not natural about that. How can that exist like that? Well, that's because it's a door. It's a huge door. Because the heavenly city that was here on the earth, given to us in size, 1,500 miles square, that sat on the North Pole for the last 66 million years, with Shaddai and Elyon in it, left 13,000 years ago. This is the parable of the certain householder that Yeshua, I like to quote a lot. A certain householder, Shaddai, built a vineyard, digged a wine press, built a tower, hedged it about, and then took a journey into a far country. Well, where did he physically go? He went someplace physically here on the earth to someplace else physical. And I'm starting to gather up scriptures of where Shaddai talks about his little spot. I believe it's both in Ezekiel, it's chapter 1, chapter 18, but you can find it. Talks about like heat on herbs in a garden, a shack in a garden of cucumbers. See, Shaddai refers to his little Jupiter, his little spaceship, like a shack. Because he has much bigger stuff than that. But right now, he's hanging out here with us, not far away, in his little shack. And there's, anyway, I put this in the email, Declaring Your Destiny. And there's other places. There's a couple other scriptures I just turned in the back of my mind, at least one more, where Shaddai talks about he goes to his little spot. Well, now we know where that little spot is. It's the so-called planet Jupiter. That's Shaddai's spot. And this red swirling thing is the door for the heavenly cities to go in and out. And Daniel posits that the Father's spaceship has room for 6,000 heavenly cities, 12,000 of them. And we'll get to these numbers, but this is a little further on, infraherein. So what you're seeing there is the ram effect of the gases that have the mass and the gravity of these spaceships have attracted gases to their surface, but they're not gas giants. And scientists know, again, in their foolishness, professing themselves to be wise, their foolish hearts were darkened and they became fools. Romans chapter 1, the mainstream academia are cursed with the 18 curses of Romans chapter 1, including that they're homosexuals. You shouldn't be listening to the academia, which are homosexuals, because they're cursed by the gods, because they are fools, and you shouldn't be listening to them, along with the clergy, another group of fools cursed by the gods that you shouldn't be listening